I never imagined that love would blossom between me, a humble cleaning lady, and a millionaire. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a gray morning. The sun barely peeked through the clouds, the air thick with uncertainty. My heart raced as I entered the grand lobby of the Rivington Tower, with its glimmering marble floors and chandeliers that sparkled like stars. I was just a cleaning lady, invisible among the wealth and richness that surrounded me. But that day, everything changed that I had never seen him before. The millionaire. He stood by the elevator, a tall figure dressed in an impeccably tailored suit, his dark hair tousled in a way that somehow looked casual and polished at the same time. I could feel an electric charge in the air. The moment our eyes locked, a shiver coursed through me. My hands trembled, the mop slipping from my grip and clattering to the floor. Did he notice? His lips curled into a smirk, revealing a hint of mischief. As I rushed past him, I couldn't shake the feeling of his gaze on my back, like a warm blanket wrapped around me. He was known for his ostentatious parties, stories of wild extravagance swirling through the grapevine. But there was something different about him, an enigma cloaked in intrigue. I cautiously stole glances from behind my cart, each time met with that same undefinable pull that made my heart flutter. My life was a cycle of scrubbing floors and wiping countertops, dreaming of things I could never have. My mother's voice echoed in my mind, reminding me of our struggles, the bills piled high, and the suffocating weight of our reality. Hope felt like a ghost never quite in reach. But in that moment, as I scrubbed the floors of a millionaire's palace, I dared to wonder what it would be like to escape into a world of luxury. Suddenly, the elevator doors slid open, and he sauntered in. I stood frozen, my breath caught. It was as if the world had narrowed down to just the two of us. The air was thick, a silence pregnant with possibilities. He turned his head, his eyes bright and alive. "Are you always this clumsy?" he teased, throwing me off balance even more. I didn't know how to respond. My cheeks flushed a deep crimson as I fumbled with my cleaning supplies. He laughed softly, a sound that sent chills racing down my spine. It was the kind of laugh that made you feel like you were hearing a secret. And in that instant, everything I'd known felt like it was crumbling. What was he doing here? Why was he talking to me? I was nobody. But that laugh lingered in the air like a spell. I couldn't help but wonder if beneath all that wealth, he could see the person I longed to be rather than the position I held. And then, as if the universe itself was conspiring against me, he reached out, brushing his fingers against my arm. That gentleness sent shockwaves through me, igniting something I'd never felt before. My heart thundered. I felt alive, but terrified. What kind of world was I stepping into? Just as quickly as it began, he stepped back, his expression shifting, something dark shadowing his eyes. "I'll see you again," he said, and the elevator doors closed as abruptly as it had begun, leaving me standing there trembling with confusion and a myriad of emotions. What did that mean? Was it a promise or a threat? And deep down, I felt the weight of an undeniable connection, a riddle wrapped in a mystery, the beginning of something that could destroy everything I knew. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed were a whirlwind of disbelief and quiet anticipation. Each morning, I returned to Rivington Tower, my heart a pendulum swinging between hope and despair. The weight of our fleeting encounter clung to me like an unshed tear. Was I a fool to think he might truly see me? The luxury that surrounded me felt more oppressive than ever. My scrubbing brushes and mops became my armor, shielding me from the reminder of my reality. I caught glimpses of him in the lobby, engaged in conversations with people who floated seamlessly in his world. They laughed and sipped expensive coffees, oblivious to the invisible line that divided us. And oh, how achingly beautiful he looked amidst them, like a star in a sea of darkness. Yet, there was something darker that simmered beneath my surface. Anxiety crept in. Was I merely a momentary distraction in his life? The memory of his touch lingered against my skin, fueling a fire of longing that was as exhilarating as it was painful. I often envisioned bumping into him again, but fear clamped down on those fantasies. What would I say? How could I ever belong in his world? It was during one of those dreary shifts that unexpected kindness flickered to life. As I emptied a trash bin, a fellow staff member, Maria, approached me. Her smile was warm, the kind that felt like sunlight breaking through gray clouds. "You look lost in thought," she said, her voice gentle. "Is everything okay?" I hesitated, unsure how to articulate the chaos in my chest. "Just working," I finally mumbled, trying to brush off her concern. But she must have seen something deeper, as her expression softened. "You know," she began, leaning in a little closer, "I've seen the way he looks at you. You make him smile. Don't forget that. The world may seem impossibly big, but you deserve to be part of it if you want." With that, she placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder before walking away, the impact of her words settling in like a comforting balm. In my solitude, I mulled over Mariah's encouragement, tearing at the fabric of my doubts. Maybe I could keep hoping, just a little longer. For the first time, I allowed the thought of stepping closer to him to breathe, to find out what this connection might mean. But as these thoughts danced in my mind, something else darkened my spirit. Rumors began to bubble within the corridors of Rivington Tower, whispers about the millionaire's past, his family's legacy marred by scandal and secrets. There were hushed tones about dangerous deals, money that spoke louder than love. As I worked, I overheard snippets, fragile pieces woven into the air of a troubled upbringing, a betrayal that cut deep. What did that matter for me, beneath the weight of my own troubles? Yet, these tales coiled around my hope, squeezing it tighter until it felt painfully strained. What kind of man hides behind that polished facade? I wondered, each question leaving me more conflicted. Just as I thought I could quiet these lingering concerns, the elevator chimed one afternoon. My heart leaped into my throat as the doors opened to reveal him. He stepped out, his expression a curious blend of determination and unease. "You're still here," he said, and for a second, the world melted away. Always am. I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. Without hesitation, he took a step toward me, his eyes scanning my face as if searching for something only he could see. "I was hoping to find you," he confessed, the tension in his voice palpable. Before I could properly absorb his words, the atmosphere shifted. A sharp cry rang out, shattering the delicate moment. A woman burst through the lobby doors, tears streaming down her cheeks, her voice filled with distress. "Please, someone help. He's gone. My brother." The commotion swept through the lobby like wildfire. Instinctively, my heart raced in rhythm with hers, a shared understanding rising among us. The millionaire's expression hardened, face transforming into an unreadable mask. He turned to me, the warmth of our connection instantly eclipsed by the emergency unfolding before us. The moment was lost, swallowed by the chaos. I watched as he rushed to the woman's side, his posture shifting into someone entirely different, a protector, a man driven by urgency. I stood at a distance, rebounding against the uncertainty in my heart. What was happening? Was this the world he belonged to, marked by unexpected turmoil? As the tension thickened, I felt an unexpected fear claw into my chest. I wasn't the only one who had secrets. Could this moment be the precipice of everything I had hoped for? Or was it a revelation that would shatter both our worlds? Just as quickly as it began, he threw a glance back at me, eyes aflame with emotion, confusion, anger, and a heart-wrenching worry. And in that instant, everything shifted again, leaving me standing on the edge of something profound, my own breath caught in the strife of two worlds colliding. The days that followed felt like a turbulent sea, each moment carrying with it waves of uncertainty and ripples of hope. The incident in the lobby had shaken me more than I cared to admit. The anguish etched on that woman's face haunted my dreams, intertwining with the image of him rushing to help as if he were a knight in shining armor. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was a mere shadow in his story, always reaching for something beyond my grasp. I immersed myself in my work, the familiar motions a soothing balm against the chaos in my mind. But my heart was heavy, burdened by the knowledge that while I harbored dreams of stepping into his world, he was consumed by the ripples of another's tragedy. The comforting words of Maria echoed in my ears but felt distant, like remnants of sun rays on a stormy day. One rainy afternoon, as I meticulously polished the glass doors at Rivington Tower, I sensed movement behind me. I turned to find him in the lobby, looking more fragile than I had ever seen him. He wore a troubled expression, lines of worry etched deeper into his brow. My breath hitched. I wanted to reach out, to comfort him, but hesitation bound my feet to the ground. "Hey," he said quietly, and the vulnerability in his tone made my heart swell. "Can we talk?" Sure," I managed, every syllable sticky on my tongue. I led him toward a side alcove, away from the watchful eyes of the lobby. The air around us felt electric, charged with anticipation and unspoken words. I wanted to apologize for earlier. His voice faltered, crumbling like dry leaves. I'm used to handling things, but he paused, running a hand through his hair in frustration. I panicked. "I didn't mean to pull away from you. It's okay," I whispered, my chest tightening as I saw him try to sift through the chaos in his mind. "You were just trying to help. I wish things were simpler," he admitted, leaning against the wall, vulnerability seeping from every pore. I had never seen him like this, raw and exposed, with no facade to shield him from the world. "You don't know how hard it is to be me, to be expected to be a certain way, all the time." I took a step closer, feeling the heat radiate between us. "What do you mean?" he faltered, eyes locked onto mine. "My family's legacy has always dictated my life. The expectations are suffocating, and I'm terrified of being trapped by their shadows forever." He spoke. I felt the aching familiarity of his struggle. I had my own chains, but here he was, an icon of privilege yet enveloped in chains of obligation. The distance between our worlds felt narrower in that moment, a shared space where burdens could exist together. "I get it," I whispered, my voice trembling. "People always think they know who you should be. It's like they never see you." He searched my eyes, and in that gaze, I saw a flicker of connection and understanding that transcended our social divide. "You see me," he murmured, leaning in just a touch closer, an almost hesitant intimacy that held the weight of all our unspoken words. But just as hope began to weave its way through the fibers of our shared struggles, his phone rang, shattering the fragile moment. He cursed under his breath before answering, his countenance shifting back to that well-rehearsed mask. I felt an unpleasant knot tighten in my stomach. A sudden urgency filled the air as he listened intently, his expressiveness fading as tragic news poured over the line. With shaky breaths, he ended the call, eyes darkened with newfound fear. "There's no time. It's my brother," he said, and suddenly he was all business again, an emotional wall rebuilt within seconds. "He's in trouble, and I have to go." Before I knew what to say, he was pulling away, the warmth of our moment dissipating into the cold reality of impending crisis. "Be safe," I whispered, feeling so small, so powerless. He hesitated at the entrance, glanced back at me one last time, and in his eyes I saw a tortured blend of gratitude and regret. "He'll come back," he promised, but the weight of uncertainty hung heavy in the air between us. As the doors of the tower swung closed behind him, I felt the world crumble around me. How could it all shift so quickly, from moments of connection to stark isolation? My heart throbbed with unanswered questions, a reminder of the labyrinth of life we were both stumbling through, tangled in our own darkness. With each passing moment, fear clawed at my insides. Would he return? And if he did, what would he be like? The truth lingered in the air, the revelation of his turbulent family life gnawing at my thoughts. Would his brother's troubles pull him deeper into the chaos, far away from the fragile hope we had begun to build? As I stared at the polished glass doors, raindrops raced down their surfaces, mirroring the tears I barely managed to hold back. I was left wondering, was I just a footnote in his life story, destined to fade away in the wake of his family's tumultuous fate? Or could something real flourish amidst our fractured realities? The cliff of hope and despair stood before me, precariously leaning toward an unknown future that was promising, yet terrifying, threatening to consume everything we had barely begun to understand. The weeks felt endless in their stretching silence, each day an exercise in resilience against the weight of unanswered questions. I clocked in each morning, the routine drowning my hopes like sand slipping through my fingers. The absence of him settled like dust on the edges of my heart, a muted reminder of what could have been. I polished the same glass doors, looked out at the same busy street, but he was no longer part of my world. Maria tried to coax me back to myself, her gentle nudges breaking through the fog of my consciousness. "You're not yourself," she would say, her brow furrowing with concern. "Talk to me, Carino. What's going on?" "I'm fine," I would reply too quickly, a practiced smile stretched across my face. How could I explain the heaviness suffocating me when I, too, struggled to understand it? My dreams churned with images of him, haunted by visions of moments we'd never have coffee shared on a rainy day, laughter echoing in the hollow spaces between us, hands brushing together in shy connection. One night, unable to sleep, I found solace in the inner workings of the Rivington Tower's lobby. The gleaming lights and the bustling crowd offered a strange comfort as I mindlessly arranged the floral displays. I stepped outside for air, and the cool night brushed against my skin, raw and alive. That's when I noticed the crowd gathered across the street, their faces illuminated by the glow of street lamps. Voices surged, a harmony of anger and passion protest rally against corporate greed and the very system that had kept me invisible for so long. My heart quickened. There was something raw and beautiful about their fight, unyielding and fearless. I felt drawn to the fervor, as if it were a siren calling me back to life that I stood watching, lost in the fervor of their words and the solidarity among strangers, when suddenly, amidst the chanting, I spotted a familiar figure, his brother. My stomach sank. Even from a distance, I could see the anger and despair contorting his features. Was this the trouble that had dragged him back to his family? My body moved before my mind could catch up. As I crossed the street, a rush of adrenaline pushed me closer. Each step felt like breaking away from the chains that had bound me to everyday mundanity. I squeezed into the crowd, the energy shifting as people rallied around shared struggles. Their voices echoed the fears that had crackled through my veins since that day, the shattering impermanence of our realities. "Stand with us," a woman shouted, her voice piercing through the tension. "Our rights matter. Our voices count." Behind her, I saw his brother shout something passionately, his fists clenched. I could sense the depth of the emotion engulfing him, the weight of their family legacy threatening to pull him under. In that moment, we locked eyes, and for a heartbeat, I saw a flicker of recognition and understanding that connected us, a bridge between struggles. He didn't see me as just a cleaning lady. He saw me as part of this collective fight. "Please, just listen," his voice urged the crowd, becoming a potent echo of vulnerability. But I saw the way doubt washed over him, and my heart ached for him, for everything he was going through. "Maybe I can help," I whispered to myself, stepping closer to the thrumming heart of the rally, my voice drawn out by a mix of courage and desperation. But before I could grasp the ground of my intentions, a sharp movement caught my eye. Suddenly, a surge rippled through the crowd. Emotions entwined like a powerful whirlpool, and chaos erupted as a few protesters began clashing with the police, their cries transforming into a chaotic blend of fear and anger. I froze, hearts racing as fists flew and shouts pierced the night. I saw his brother yell, looking almost frantic, and something deep in my gut twisted painfully. I turned back toward the chaos, the undertow pulling at my very spirit. In an instant, everything snapped into focus. The cries of the crowd echoed in my mind, blending into a backdrop of turmoil, drawing us all into its freight train of emotion. I made my way through the swell of bodies, desperate to reach him. I couldn't lose this fleeting connection, this bond between us amidst the storm. Suddenly, I stumbled back as a flash of lights near the front struck me blind, and instinct kicked in. My feet leapt into action. I raced toward his silhouette, feeling as if I were chasing a lifeline. "No, don't," I shouted as a wave of officers moved in. But before I could grasp his wrist, he turned and saw me, eyes wide with shock. "You shouldn't be here," he yelled, but his voice was swallowed by the cacophony of mingled chaos. A sharp clang reverberated through the air, and in a frenzied moment, someone shoved my shoulder. I lost my balance and tumbled, the world spinning violently around me. Just as things grew darker, a hand reached out, steady and warm as hand. And then, there it was, a split second of calm in the eye of the storm, the world around us forgotten. But just as my heart sang with hope, a figure moved behind him, swinging a baton. Everything exploded into screams. "Get down!" he screamed, and in that instant, the reality of our situation crashed down upon us. I could feel his fear, his desperation to protect as the air thickened against our bodies. In that heartbeat suspended between hope and horror, everything I had feared arranged itself into a single, crystalline moment. It was no longer about preventing the storms of uncertainty. It was about surviving the chaos that had already come crashing in. As I clung to his hand, the world spiraling around us, I couldn't shake the terror of losing everything we hadn't yet found. My heart pounded against my ribcage as I desperately clung to his hand, the warmth of his grip grounding me amid the chaos. The world outside of our bubble faded into a murmur, but I could feel the tension in his body, a stark contrast to the warmth of his fingertips interlaced with mine. "Don't let go," I yelled, my voice barely rising above the pandemonium. His fingers tightened around mine, and I swore for a moment. We were weightless, suspended in this fragile reality. "Stay behind me," he shouted, and the urgency in his voice sent a jolt of fear through me. I was about to argue, to assert my own autonomy, but the flickering lights and the shouts from officers rushing through the crowd cut me off abruptly. We were swept along like leaves in a storm, adrift in a tide of anger and hope. People surged around us, crying out for justice, their voices a chorus of pain. But as chaos cascaded, I felt a pulse of strength within me, a reminder of the quiet dignity I had forged in my daily grind, that had somehow led me to this moment. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the air, a sound that sent ripples of panic through the crowd, igniting new fervor. The protesters began to scatter, fueled by an instinctual drive to avoid the oncoming rush of police. I could feel the energy shift, survival instinct taking over, but still, I held fast to him. We wove our way through the turmoil, nearly colliding ankles as we maneuvered among throngs of bodies thrown into a panic. His face was a blend of determination and fear, and it struck me profoundly. This wasn't just a protest for him, it was a fight that had become all-consuming. The weight of his family's expectations pressed heavily on his shoulders, and I could sense it pulling him under. "What's happening?" I managed to ask as we sank into a quieter alcove, the chaos pulsating just beyond the protective barrier of bodies. The faint strains of sirens sliced through the night, a harsh reminder of the fragility of our situation. His jaw clenched. "I thought maybe I could make a difference this time," he admitted, his voice softening, vulnerability cracking through. I could see him wrestling with something deeper, a longing for connection that had spurred him to fight, just as it had drawn me to him. "But I can't." I failed before I stop. I interrupted, desperation tinging my voice. "You're not a failure. You're here, fighting for something bigger than yourself." My words felt inadequate, but they were all I had. And yet, they seemed to spark something in him, a flicker of a smile breaking through the shadows of doubt. That he looked down, surprised by his own emotions, and for a moment, I felt as if we were standing on some sacred ground amid the crumbling walls of uncertainty. I remembered the dreams I'd lost, but here, staring into his burning eyes, I felt a strange form of hope shining. Perhaps we weren't just two people lost in their own shadows. Maybe, amid the anguish, we could find a way forward. "Let's just breathe," I murmured, trying to share a warmth that felt too fragile yet too powerful to ignore. But even in that surrender, I could sense the pull of impending calamity. A cruel reminder of reality loomed. The crackle of radios sounded nearer, the police attempting to restore order, the shouts only increasing as frustration mounted among the crowd. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice steadying, and it dawned on me he wasn't just asking about the moment. He was inviting me into a world filled with the potential for change, and yet, a world where danger festered just beyond the threshold. "I am not sure," I replied honestly. "But I know we can't give up." He pulled me closer, leaning in, our foreheads almost touching. "Then let's do this together." The rallying cries of protesters erupted again, a wave of sound that reverberated in my bones. The surge became a tangible force, drawing us back to where hope collided with fear. We squeezed out into the tumultuous call of desperation, united in purpose, yet I could feel my heart betray me with the weight of uncertainty. Suddenly, a loud blast, sharp and blinding, made me flinch. The air, shifted ominously as something, perhaps a flash grenade, sent the crowd screaming into disarray again. In that chaotic moment, I sensed the heat from several bodies swarming us, pushing me back instinctively while he moved forward in defiance. And oh, I screamed, lunging towards him instinctively. But the swarm of humanity tore us apart like a decision made in an instant overshook dreams, time and space collapsing on my heart. Our eyes met one last time, just as we were torn from each other, and I felt a sickening twist inside me as shadows swallowed him whole. Struggling free from the grip of the crowd, I could feel a dark weight settle on my chest, the gnawing fear of losing him before we had truly found each other. The world echoed with chaos, my heart wrenched in two. I knew then that my fight had reached a peak. It was no longer just about our connection, but about the storms we faced within ourselves and the world outside. A reminder of the messy, intertwining paths of love, struggle, and uncertainty. Desperate to find him again, I surged forward into the chaos, my voice lost in the swell of cries, the unfolding world around me fading into senseless noise. And as I grasped blind through the turmoil, my heart sank with the profound realization I would fight for us, through whatever storms lay ahead, or perish trying. In that moment, surrounded by tumult, I was determined to chase back the light, even if it meant being swept under. And then, through the veil of panic, I heard Ida's scream of my name, frayed and cutting through the noise, unraveling every thread of calm remaining in my heart. The world around me swirled in a cacophony of despair, voices pooling into a frantic wail as my heart raced, cracking under the weight of fear and loss. I exhaled sharply, the air thick with tension and the smell of sweat and adrenaline coating my senses. The multitude seemed infinite, an overwhelming wave that threatened to pull me under. I stumbled, pushed along by the rush of bodies, my mind racing. Where had he gone? Panic clenched my chest, and I fought against the tide, desperate to regain the grip I had just lost. As I weaved through the sea of chaos, each step felt like a feeble attempt at bringing our connection back into focus. I strained to hear that voice again, that melodic call that had lit up the darkness just minutes earlier. My lungs burned, but I pressed on, fueled by a rising tide of determination. He couldn't be lost a minute when we were so close to breaking through the chaos, to making a change. Suddenly, the crowd surged around me, a powerful force pushing and pulling. I threw my hands out, searching for a lifeline, and felt a rough hand grab my wrist. I spun to find a stranger, their eyes wide with urgency. "Are you okay?" The stranger yelled over the clamoring voices. Their features were smudged by fear, but behind that, I saw a flash of genuine concern. "That I need to find him," I shouted back, my voice cracking, the need pouring from me. The stranger hesitated, eyes darting back to the chaos enveloping us. "Follow me." Without waiting for my answer, they pulled me toward a narrow alley, forcing me momentarily away from the chaos enveloping the street. The air shifted in the alley, a stark contrast to the madness outside. Here, I could breathe, the walls sheltering me from the relentless roar, if even for a moment. "Why did you help me?" I gasped, feeling silly but raw in my gratitude. "Sometimes kindness finds us in our darkest moments," they replied simply, a soft smile cutting through their fear. "It's easy to forget, just try to remember." Those words hung in the air, shimmering with an unexpected warmth. But before I could process their kindness, the distant crack of more gunfire shattered the calm, returning the flood of dread. I turned to the stranger, urgency igniting my voice. "I need to go." With a nod, they pointed toward a side street where the noise trickled just slightly, but before I could take a step, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I fished it out, heart thrumming painfully against my ribcage. An unknown number flashed on the screen. It was unlikely to be him, but desperation urged me to answer. "Hurry, he's in trouble." The voice screeched, garbled and frantic, before the line went dead. My heart plummeted. The stranger's earlier warmth faded, replaced by a bitter chill that swept through me. "Who was that?" they asked, a hint of concern creeping back into their eyes. "I don't know," I stammered, gripped by fear as I glanced around, each moment stretching painfully. "But I have to find him. He'll come with you," they insisted, a mystifying courage evident in their eyes. But all I could think about was him. Where had he gone? I shook my head, each decision growing heavier upon my shoulders. "No, I need to go on my own, I insisted, rekindling every drop of resolve. Somehow, I knew if I could just find him, we would be okay. Thank you for your kindness. The weight of my own words struck me. Kindness held far more strength than I had previously thought. With one last look of determination cast toward the stranger, I pushed back into the chaos. Sirens blared, but the distant echo of hope pulsed like a heartbeat, urging me forward. I sprinted through the labyrinth of bodies, searching for that familiar presence, that warmth. Moments felt like hours as I channeled every ounce of strength into my legs. Then, like discovering a hidden treasure, I spotted him, his back turned and focused on something beyond the tumult. Relief washed over me like a tide. My heart soared only to be yanked back to the ground as I noticed the shadows surrounding him. 3 figures loomed, their postures aggressive, their intentions ominous. I was too far away to hear what was happening, but the body language alone sent my heart into a frenzied panic. I instinctively pressed onward, shouting his name, but the chaos swept my voice away. I stumbled, my foot catching on uneven pavement, and I barely righted myself. "Don't!" I shouted, the words raw in my throat, desperate urgency propelling me. But it was too late. The figures lunged, the cacophony of the chaos swelling, drowning out anything that echoed in my heart. Then, in an instant that split time, I saw him, his face twisted in surprise, the shadow of fear grasping at him as he turned to me, and I felt the world snap, shattering in front of my eyes. Was that a flash of anger aimed at him, at me? Did they see the connection we shared? Did they sense our fight? Terror curling in my gut, I sprinted forward just as the crack of an object met the pavement, an all too familiar sound, the night suddenly growing darker as I recognized whatever was thrown. A flash grenade erupted, light bursting forth and cloaking everything in an ashen haze. For an eternity, I felt as if I were standing on the edge of oblivion, staring into the abyss. As the screams blurred around me and light turned blinding, one thought reverberated in my mind. I would fight for us, through whatever storms lay ahead. But in that fractured moment, I lost sight of him once more, lost in the shadows of panic, and fear gnawed at my being. He was still out there, teetering on the precipice of danger, and I could not let my fight end here. Trembling with a mixture of fear and resolve, I gasped for air, eyes searching within the blinding light for any reflection of him in a world that felt distorted. And then, like a haunting melody beckoning from the distance, I caught a glimpse of something dark looming at the edge of the chaos, and my breath stilled. The shadows shifted, and my heart raced anew, not from fear, but from something else, an inexplicable sense of dread, thick and suffocating, tightening around my heart. Would I dare step into that darkness once more? The light of the flash grenade faded into a blinding afterglow, and for a moment, the world was quiet, eerily so. My chest tightened, the breath caught in my throat as fragments of reality slipped away. I couldn't hear the shouts, the chaos. All I could perceive was the sharpness of the moment, time fractured like glass, and I felt utterly alone. The haze began to clear, and I squinted through the vision of half-light. I pushed through the despair, fighting against the chaos that surrounded me, hoping desperately to glimpse his face. The world was spinning, but my heart clung to the memory of his smile, the kindness in his eyes that reminded me to hope, even in the darkest hours. Suddenly, a figure appeared through the veil of confusion, and instinctively, my heart leaped. But as the details sharpened, dread coiled within me. It wasn't him. A tall man loomed, his expression dark and deliberate, shadowed by the remnants of chaos swirling around us. He moved with the confidence of someone who thrived in shadows, and something cold wrinkled in my gut. "Where do you think you're going?" His voice was gravelly, like stones grinding together in a long-abandoned quarry. I took a step back, words rushing to my lips, but failing. My mind whirred as I searched for the strength to stand firm. "Let him go." He laughed, a sound that sent chills down my spine. "You think you can just walk in here and take him? Not a chance, sweetheart." I felt the walls surrounding me begin to close in, and my thoughts whirled in desperation. His words wrapped around my heart like a vice. I scanned the area, searching for anyone who could help. Behind him, shadows lurked, but there was a flicker of motion in the distance that stole my attention. A glimmer of hope ignited within me. Could it be him? Just beyond this looming terror? "Step aside," I commanded, my voice stronger than I felt deep down. The vulnerable part of me quaked, but the fire of protectiveness blazed brighter. He tilted his head, and the grin on his face blossomed, sinister and amused. You really think you can intimidate me? Pathetic. Anger surged through me, its heat mingling with fear. I wouldn't cower. Not now. I needed Hema, a thread of hope weaving through insurmountable dread. I had to press on, to push through the storm, and suddenly, clarity swept through me. I wasn't just fighting for him. I was fighting for everything we could be. Before I could rethink my decision, I lunged past the figure, desperation propelling me forward. Each stride felt monumental, my heart thundering as I broke through the encircling shadows. Time seemed to elongate as my feet carried me closer. Then, as if the shadows were playing tricks on my mind, I heard another crash nearby, an inflatable object spiraling uncontrollably through the air, landing against the alley wall with a soft thud. Instinctively, I dove towards it, hoping it was a signal weapon, perhaps anything to shield me from the encroaching darkness. Just then, screams pierced the air anew. This time closer, sharper. The crowd echoed its terror. Clutching the object closely, I regained my footing and squinted to focus on everything around me. But as I turned, the figure was no longer in front of me. He had retreated into the shadows, and the bleakness deepened, uncertainty curling around my thoughts. I frantically scanned for him, searching for the warmth of the connection that had grounded me just moments earlier. I took a deep breath, trying to push the rising panic from my chest, and spotted a shimmering outline that pierced through the dim light. He was crouched behind a dumpster, eyes scanning the area, breathing heavily. Relief flooded my veins, but I noticed something glinting in his hand, a small pocket knife, blade reflecting the conflicting lights of chaos. "Don't move," I yelled, my heart racing as adrenaline coursed through me. But as I propelled myself forward, a sudden hand clamped down on my shoulder, jerking me back. "Let go," I screamed, twisting in their grasp only to find it was the same imposing figure from before. "Get away from him," he growled, pulling me closer to the darkness, his grip unyielding. I felt the air slipping from my lungs as desperation rose. "Please, don't hurt him," I cried out, my voice trembling, my eyes searching for the warmth, the connection I felt earlier. But the shadows loomed closer, swallowing my pleas whole. I felt a cold chill wrap around me, gripping my heart tightly as he stepped back into the darkened alley with me held like a puppet. I couldn't see him anymore. My anchor in the storm was slipping away, and I was losing my grasp on everything I desperately wanted to fight for. Suddenly, the figure hesitated, and I seized the moment, wrenching free of his grasp, heart pounding as I dove towards him. And just as the chaos crescendoed around me, I caught sight of something glimmering, a glint of silver edge before the street erupted into blinding light, consuming all I held dear once more. The echoes of love intertwined with fear as I cried out his name, caught between the shadows and the longing to reclaim everything that I had lost. The world contracted into a whirlwind around me, my breath mingled with the acrid scent of smoke and fear.